Hi, I'm a tutor from mathsandenglish.net, and today we'll be looking at multiplication and division of simple fractions. I firstly wanted to look at the steps involved in multiplication of fractions. It can look like there's quite a lot going on, so I find it easiest to break it down into steps. And in these steps, we're going to treat the top number of the fractions and the bottom number of the fractions separately. Your answer to these sorts of questions will be a fraction. So we need to work out two bits of information: the top number and the bottom number of that fraction. We can do this in two steps. Firstly, we want to take the top two numbers of the fractions that we are multiplying together. In this case, we're multiplying 2 over 5 by 3 over 4. So we can multiply 2 and 3 together to get 6. And that gives us the top number of our answer fraction. Now, to get the bottom number, we do exactly the same thing with the bottom numbers of the two fractions. In this case, 5 and 4. We multiply them together to get 20, and we can write that in as the bottom number of our fraction. This gives us 6 over 20 as our answer. Now, the final step that you want to make sure you always do with these sorts of questions is make sure that you've simplified your fraction. In this case, 6 and 20 do have a common factor, which is 2. So we can divide both of these numbers by 2, and you need to make sure you do it to both, to get our simplified answer, 3 over 10. Now, I'd like you to have a go. This question has 8 divided by 3 multiplied by 2 divided by 3. Have a go at answering it, pause the video, and come back in a moment to see the right answer. Hopefully you've had a go now. The answer that you should have gotten is 16 divided by 9. If you didn't, rewind the video, re-listen to the steps that I explained earlier, and see if you can figure out where you went wrong. Now we will look at the division. For division, we actually treat it in a really similar way to multiplication. It just has one extra added step at the start. So division and multiplication in my head are kind of opposites of each other, and I think a lot of people think of it that way. I also like to think of flipping something over as kind of turning it into the opposite of what it was before, which is how I remember the steps of this process. The reason I say we treat these in a really similar way is because to calculate the answer to a division question with fractions, you actually turn it into a multiplication question. So, how do we do that? The first step is to take the second number and flip it over. So the bottom number becomes the top number, and the top number becomes the bottom number. This way, we can switch the symbol from a division symbol to a multiplication symbol, and this gives us a much simpler question to work with. You want to make sure that you're flipping only the second number. If you try and flip the first number, it will not work. It has to be the second number in the equation. Now, if we do this for our example, 3 over 4 divided by 2 over 7, you can flip the 2 and the 7 so it becomes 7 over 2, and switch the symbol. What you should now end up with is 3 over 4 times 7 over 2. Now, we know how to handle this. We learned this earlier. So, you treat it the same way as you treated the multiplication. You multiply the top two numbers together, 3 and 7, to get 21 as the top number of our answer. And you take the bottom numbers, 4 and 2, and multiply them together to get 8, which is the bottom number of our answer. 21 over 8. Now, I'd like you to have a go one more time at doing it yourself. Have a go following the steps I explained earlier, pause the video, and come back for the right answer. Hopefully you've now had a go. The answer that you hopefully should have gotten is 32 over 15. Same as before, if you went wrong somewhere and you're not entirely sure what happened, rewind the video and re-listen to the steps I explained and see if you can figure out what happened. In our next lesson, we'll be looking at the next bit of the curriculum, which is adding and subtracting simple fractions. See you then.